It was supposed to be just another quiet evening in the dimly lit corner of a downtown steakhouse, the kind of place where the walls smelled faintly of oak barrels and sizzling meat, where the clinking of glasses could almost hide the exhaustion in people's eyes. She walked in quietly, without an entourage, without the gleam of wealth that usually followed her name like a shadow. To the world she was a billionaire, a woman of influence and unimaginable fortune, but tonight, she was undercover. No designer clothes, no press hovering around her table, just a simple blouse, worn jeans, and hair tied loosely back. She wanted to disappear, to see the world as it was, not as it appeared when people recognized her. She didn't know that this ordinary night would change the course of 2 lives. She didn't know that a single folded piece of paper, slipped discreetly by a tired single father posing as her server, would stop her cold and unravel truths that money could never buy. And before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen in the most unexpected places, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope so we can keep telling stories that remind us of what really matters. The restaurant had seen better days. Once the most popular steakhouse in the city, it now struggled to fill tables, the golden era of roaring customers replaced by hesitant footsteps and the occasional loyal patron. It was here that James found himself trapped between dreams he once had and the life he now carried. He wasn't supposed to be here. Once upon a time, he was an aspiring musician, a man who carried his guitar like an extension of his soul. But dreams don't always pay the bills, and when life handed him a daughter to raise alone, those dreams had to be tucked away, gathering dust like forgotten sheet music in a box. James was a single father now, juggling the heavy plates of responsibility and love, trying to give his little girl Emma the life she deserved. Every evening shift stretched him thin, but every morning when she wrapped her tiny arms around his neck, it was worth it. That night, as he wiped the sweat from his brow and buttoned up the last part of his worn-out uniform, James told himself it was just another shift. But the truth was, his world was collapsing quietly. Rent was overdue, Emma's school fees had gone unpaid for 2 months, and the whispers from his landlord were turning into sharp warnings. His car barely ran, his shoes had holes, and yet he smiled through every order he took because he knew Emma's happiness depended on the illusion that everything was okay. He had no idea that the woman sitting at table 7 would hold the answer to prayers he whispered every night before bed. She sat quietly, almost invisible among the soft chatter of couples and friends. The undercover billionaire, her name was Victoria, had been raised in wealth but had grown increasingly restless. The boardrooms, the headlines, the luxury, all of it had begun to feel like a cage. She wanted to know the truth about people, about humanity beyond money's blinders. That's why she had chosen this steakhouse, a place that didn't know her name, a place where she could watch life as it was lived by those who weren't trapped in her world of gold and glass. When James approached her table, balancing a tray with practiced grace, she saw something most people wouldn't notice, tired eyes that still carried warmth, a quiet kindness in the way he set down the glass of water, and a gentleness in the way he asked what she would like to order. She asked for a steak, medium rare. Nothing else. For James, it was just another order. But as he walked away, his chest tightened. He had reached a breaking point that day. Earlier, Emma had handed him a drawing she made of the two of them, a little girl holding her father's hand under a sun that looked too big, with the words written in crooked letters, "Daddy, you are my hero." He had smiled then, but later, when no one could see, he broke down. Because he didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a failure. He had even considered quitting, finding another job, maybe 2 jobs if it came to it. But then who would tuck Emma in at night? Who would sing her lullabies? The conflict tore at him. And that night, for reasons even he couldn't explain, he grabbed a scrap of paper from his pocket, wrote down a few words, folded it carefully, and slipped it beneath the edge of the plate when he delivered Victoria's steak. Victoria cut into the steak slowly, savoring the first bite, until her eyes caught the folded slip. She frowned, glanced around to see if anyone was watching, then carefully opened it. The words were shaky, written in hurried ink, but they cut deeper than any perfectly crafted sentence ever could. It said, "If you have anyone in your life you love, hold them tight tonight. Some of us are fighting battles just to keep the lights on, but we keep going because of love. That's what saves us." Her fork stopped mid-air. The words seemed to pierce straight through the armor she had built around her heart. She didn't know who this man was or why he wrote it, but she could feel the weight behind it, the quiet desperation hidden in every syllable. She looked up then, really looked, and saw James from across the room, forcing a smile as he served another table, his shoulders slightly hunched, the weariness of someone who carried more than his share. For the first time in years, she felt humbled. The rest of the evening passed in a haze for Victoria. She barely touched her food, her mind consumed by those words. When she left, she placed a tip far larger than the bill, enough to feed James and Emma for weeks. But that wasn't the end. Something inside her told her she couldn't walk away. She returned the next night, and the night after that. Each time, she watched James work, unnoticed by the world, unseen in his quiet struggle. She started asking him about his daughter, his life, what dreams he had left behind. And though he tried to keep the walls up, eventually, the truth slipped through, the music he once loved, the nights spent worrying, the mornings he lived only for Emma's smile. Victoria's heart broke in ways she hadn't expected. Money had bought her everything, but here was a man who had nothing yet loved with a richness she had never known. Slowly, without revealing who she really was, she began helping. Small things at first, paying anonymously for Emma's school fees, sending gift cards that arrived without a name, ensuring groceries were delivered when James least expected it. And with every gesture, she felt herself change too. But one evening, when James's car finally broke down for good, she couldn't hide anymore. She offered him a ride, and when he reluctantly accepted, he asked why she was doing all this. Victoria hesitated, then finally confessed the truth. She wasn't just a regular customer. She was Victoria Hale, one of the city's wealthiest women. James froze, his breath catching in disbelief. He didn't know whether to feel betrayed or grateful. But before he could speak, she handed him the same note he had once written, now folded and worn. She told him that those words had reminded her of what truly mattered, that love, not money, was what saved people. And she had decided she wanted to help him not out of pity, but because he had given her back a piece of her humanity. What followed was nothing short of miraculous. Victoria offered James a chance to pursue music again, funding a small studio space and ensuring Emma never went without. She didn't do it for recognition or gratitude, she did it because his courage, his love, and his note had reminded her of life beyond wealth. James, in turn, gave her something even rarer, trust, friendship, and the reminder that even the smallest act of honesty can ripple out and change someone's life forever. And to you, watching this right now, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in love's quiet power, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. It's your support that helps us continue telling stories that matter. Before we end, we have a special request. Drop a comment below and tell us, what's the most powerful act of kindness you've ever witnessed or experienced? Your story might just inspire someone else today.